The database, uh, there is no utility. Well, so let's go through these steps. The way you do a database migration is you back up the old down level database, your 11.3x database, 11.6 database, whatever it is, and then you restore that database over the new version 24 database that you created in your new environment. So now you've got a down level database that's at version 24. We run some scripts against that database to bring it up to 24. When you do it this way, all of your machine definitions, all of your objects are retained, all of your statuses, your job histories are retained. So if you had a job that was in a running state and you took the old system down to do the migration, when you back up and restore the old database, that job is going to be in a running status. Since when the job finishes, since it has no scheduler to talk to, it'll cache the information. And when the new scheduler connects to that agent, it'll bring in that job status of the completed job. So it's very seamless to do it this method. The thing is if you're changing database types, you can't, there is no backup and restore for those database types. So then you have to do an object migration. When you do it this way, another advantage is, excuse me, your original system is your backup plan. If when you do the migration, something isn't right, you shut the new system off and you go back to the old system, you haven't touched it. It's intact the way it was. An object migration adds complexity and time. And it's because you need to migrate all of your objects manually, all of your calendars, all of your jobs, all of your machines, all of your global variables. Um, any of your objects have to be exported and imported manually. And that may mean, well, like, for example, when you export your jobs into a GIL format, it may mean changing the order of things so that things load back smoothly. If you have dependencies, the dependent jobs have to be loaded first. In order to not throw errors. You can actually load a job with a dependent job that doesn't exist in the database, but it's going to throw an error or a warning. And then the other problem with doing an object migration is you don't retain any of the job statuses or any of the job histories. So all of those jobs will come into the database as new objects. An upgrade in place is the other option. The advantages are you don't need new hardware. You don't have to do firewall rules because you're using your same hardware. And you don't need a new database because you're going to upgrade your existing database. The negatives to it are you can't change OS because you're using your same hardware. An upgrade in place almost never goes without issues. Something always doesn't load correctly or start correctly in my experience. So you better be ready to troubleshoot issues. You need to have good backups and snapshots if they're VMs of your servers and databases because you're upgrading your hardware in place so you have no backout other than those backups. And if your environment is not clean, if you've got old logs out there from a year or two ago, you're going to start your new environment with an unclean environment. You're going to start your upgraded environment with an unclean environment. And then the last piece is you can change database engines doing an upgrade in place, but you have to upgrade the current database and then migrate your objects to a new database or do a backup and restore. Depending if it's SQL Server to SQL Server, you can back up the old and restore it if you need to change databases. If you're changing database types, then you would export all your objects and import them in to the new database. So it'd be manual, and the same caveats include you wouldn't be able to save job statuses or history, etc. Tips and best practices for a successful upgrade, and that is start early, make your decisions early, and do your homework. Some of the things to look for. It might be best to engage RMT and utilize our experience because we've seen it all. But whether you engage us or not, you want a plan of attack. You want you want to have an upgrade strategy, and you want to document that. Meaning, for example, if you're going to version 24, you're probably going to have some training that's going to be necessary before you can fully migrate even your development environment to new. You're going to have to train your user community. So have a plan of attack. Understand all the pieces that are going to need to be done to have a successful upgrade. Make critical decisions early. Decide if you're going to use what type of upgrade you're going to use. Decide what OS you're going to use, what database you're going to use. Are you going to use embedded Java, or are you going to use a system Java? With the new software, you can choose the Java location that you install to, which means if you don't want to use the embedded Java that comes with the product, you can use an open source Java, install it as part of your operating system, and then your OS teams would be responsible for upgrading that Java. So you got to decide which Java you're going to use. And then you need to decide your migration method. Are you going to do an upgrade in place? Are you going to do a migration with new hardware? And what changes are you going to make to OS and DB? And then the last thing is make sure that all the prereqs are completed. You're going to need a database client, no matter which database you use. You're going to need your Java laid down if you're going to use an external Java. And you need to go through the documents and make sure all the operating system prereqs are there. So, for example, Linux requires libNSL modules. So you want to make sure that all the proper operating system components are there so that you're ready to do the upgrade itself. And now I'll turn it back to Bob.
Thank you, Bob. All right, so we appreciate you sticking around. I think most everybody did. Thank you so much. Hopefully you saw value in that. As I mentioned before, we will be doing a lot of these. And not a lot as in once a week kind of thing, but a lot as in maybe once a quarter, once every other quarter, with all of the kind of the hot items that you might be interested in. And oh, by the way, if you have a topic you would like us experts to talk on, we're happy to take that as well. But as I mentioned, so here's our offer to you for sticking around. So with December being the end of support timeframe, we are already getting a lot of folks that are asking us to engage. We have resources, but we don't have, a million resources. So therefore, it is imperative that folks get get at the top of the stack for helping with their upgrade. So Bob talked about a few different things. We don't cover all of it. There's a lot of nuances that happen with upgrades. If you want our help and you need our help, then email us within the next 48 hours. Put top stack priority in the subject line, or just say, hey, I attended the webinar and I'm really interested in chatting with you all about helping us upgrade. And you would email it to info@robertmarktech.com. That is at the bottom of this. And the other thing that I told you we'd talk a little bit about it, but this is the spot we'll talk about it. So some of you may know that we have a lifecycle management automation product. We've had it for a number of years. One of the benefits of that product is it basically automates everything related to making change in AutoSys. We're continuing to evolve that. One of the things we're adding to that tool is the ability to track, monitor, and manage executions in your environment. So one of the things that we're doing is creating a dashboard so that you can see where I'm at with licensing related to where I'm at with usage versus my licensed amount of executions, even getting down into the applications themselves that are using the executions. And then we're also creating a health check that you can go out and we'll basically look at your executions and make recommendations on where you can trim executions to keep yourself under that license amount. So that isn't the bread and butter of the tool. The bread and butter of the tool is the ability to automate change, and we're very good at that. There's a lot more to that particular product. What we're also offering is a free whiteboard session. So what that whiteboard session looks like is we'll sit on a call with you, spend an hour or two with you. You tell us how you make change. We'll come back to you and tell you where ACE can benefit. and help you. And at that point, if you decide it's not a fit, then so be it. You only wasted an hour of your time, but we'll also provide you very valuable feedback on your environment, because that's also what we do. We're consultants. And so the other piece to that is we'll also, if it is a fit, then perfect. We just take it to the next level and continue on. But you'll get to see the product a little bit. More importantly, we'll do a whiteboard session for you. So again, email us at info@robertmarktech.com. If you have an idea for a webinar you would like to see us do, like for example, the integration with ServiceNow, right? A lot of folks have talked about that. If that's of importance and you would like to see a webinar, also email us at info@robertmarktech.com. We'd love to hear from you. It helps us determine we're going on the right path and doing the sessions that you want to see. So anyway, last thing I'll say, we're going to move on to the questions, but thank you so much for joining. Thank you for spending your time, and hopefully you saw value, and stay tuned for the next one. So questions, do we have any questions at all? I think you have to chat. You have to put it in the chat, right, Brittany?
Yes. So if you have any questions, put them in the Q&A chat at the bottom of your screen. And I also want to just say thank you, Bob and Bob. We really appreciate you speaking with us today. And again, if you all have any questions, put them in the Q&A pod at the bottom of your screen. We'll give you all a few minutes.
Is Bob that good? It's fantastic.
I guess so.
Okay.
All
Looks like
right.
there's no questions. So, and if you did have a question, somehow you weren't technically able to put it in there. Wait, let's see, is there a Q&A?
See you.
Oh, there is a question. Bob, can you do an in-place upgrade from 12.0 to version 24 directly, or does it need to have hops?
You can do it directly. You can actually go from 11.3.6 to 24 directly.
Well, O'Brien Kellerman, good to see you. I think that's it. That might be it. Okay. Any other questions? Would love to see a session on plugins options, especially S3 file watching. Cami, that's all you. I love that. That's exactly what we want to see. I think folks do want to see more on what plugins look like, how to set them up, and how to do integrations and such. So yes, that is definitely on our list, and now certainly S3 file watching is at the top of the list. So thank you, Jason. Any other questions? Any other recommendations that you would like to see? Yes. So the short answer to that is yes, they do offer that. It's within a window. So the question for everybody is, do you provide temp license keys for version 24 for clients to test? The short answer is yes. The longer answer is within a time frame, they'll allow dual operation of the systems within a normalized time frame. If you're talking 6 months, 8 months, yeah, they won't allow that. If you're talking just a few months, then yes, they do allow that. Good question. All right, we're keeping poking and prodding you guys. You're putting out good questions. Keep them going. Any other ones? Would like to see best practices to reduce job runs under new licensing agreements. That's a good one. Yes, so there's technical ways with the product to do it. We can certainly set up a session on that. We'll probably also demonstrate our product and its ability to kind of show dashboards and that kind of thing. So Jason, to answer your question, ACE will pay for itself with the amount of executions that it will help you reduce. But yes, we can do a session that says, hey, if you don't want to have ACE, here's what it looks like. And if you want ACE, here's what it looks like. The short answer would be look into ACE. But yes, that's a good one. Any other ones? Would it be helpful to actually have a webinar on ACE so you could see all the ins and outs of that particular product? Would that be beneficial? Sandbox license for learning. I think that they would allow a license key. But by the way, if you're in the execution based, you don't need a license for it anyway. And in fact, I should have remembered this. I was old school thinking. Oh, thank you. The old school thinking was you have to pay for instances. If you're on the execution model, you don't have to pay for it. So you can have sandbox, you can have a separate version while you're doing the upgrade. I apologize for the answer I gave earlier. That was not correct. Unless you're not on the execution-based licensing, which most of you are. And so that particular licensing model allows you to leverage as much as you want. Sandbox, another separate, V24 instance. Yeah, there's no issues if you're on the execution-based model. And yes, we will do an ACE session within the next probably 3 to 6 months. So we will invite you all to that as well. And then, Bob, do you see this question? I am currently
do.
running 12.0. Do you want to answer that?
Yeah, sure. So 24 is supported on AIX still. My issue with Sybase, there's nothing wrong with having Sybase for your backend. My issue with Sybase is you can't run your WCC database on Sybase, which means you're stuck with Derby or another database. And the answer is you could stay with AIX, you could go to Linux, and you could change your database type. But again, when you change your database type, unless you're going to Postgres, there is no tool to migrate your data. So that means it's a manual export and import of all the data, and you lose history and status of your jobs. If you go to Postgres, there is a migration tool. So I hope that answers your question. But so customers ask me, what operating system should I be on? What database should I be on? My answer to the customer is always, what position is your company? What position? What products is your company in the best position to support? If you're a Windows shop, run it on Windows. If you're an Oracle shop, run it on Oracle. It doesn't matter what operating system is. You can mix it and match it with any database type. So in other words, just because you're on Windows doesn't mean you need to use Microsoft SQL Server. You can use any of the database options. And from a product perspective, it performs the same. It really doesn't matter. So my answer would be, if you're trying to get off AIX, the migration time would be the time to do it. But if you like AIX, install 24 on AIX. And if you need to switch your database type, then it's just a manual database switch.
Got a couple more. So I did get one from Jason saying AAI session. Absolutely. I think that'd be beneficial as well. We'll put that on the list. This is great. Thank you for all the feedback on that. And then Bob, there's a couple more technical ones. You got 30 seconds for each. We're gonna keep everybody.
Sure. So the option to restart a job automatically does not exist, even in 24. What are the benefits of SQL to Postgres? My guess is licensing
Costs, right?
cost.
Yeah. Technically, I don't think there's much else, is
No,
there?
it's supported on Postgres, so it'll run fine on Postgres. Since it's new with 24, I don't have a lot of experience with it on Postgres, but my guess is it's cost.